height of frustration of the school board, first of all, I heard that we were not able to sit as a joint committee together with the city council. And then I heard that because we had budgeted $400,000, and this is my big point, and I would have said it on Tuesday night or whenever night last week, the $400,000 that came from the budget of the health insurance, when we thought that our experience mod was going to be 9–10%, and we budgeted accordingly. And then when we found out that our experience mod was 1, 2, whatever it was very low.
Yeah, our increase was 1.2.
Okay, so that was very good. So then we perceived that we had a pot of money, $400,000. We don't have, in my mind, we don't have that $400,000. That was a proposal for the health insurance at 10%. Had I been sitting here a week ago and not on vacation, I would have said that money is fictitious to us. It's not there. It was in our budget, but it's not real money to us because we haven't got a budget that has that in it. The budget has not been approved that had that $400,000 in it. So what we're thinking is that we have an extra $400,000. On paper we do, but in reality we don't have a budget that was voted on and passed on that. So my thing is that how much does $400,000 represent in an increase or a decrease?
So I can jump in now, or everybody can
I
give
think
their
we'll go around.
viewpoint. We'll go around,
we'll
and
go
then,
around
because Adam and I prepared some
Yeah,
scenarios.
but I think everyone should voice their concerns or points, so.
So therefore, I really don't think that we have $400,000 to play with, quote unquote.
I think I will only clarify that a little bit, Bonnie, in that the budget number that we had been talking with, which kept us below the 3% increase, included that number. So we, without clear direction from the council, we felt that 3% was still a reasonable budget increase. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the utilization of that adjustment for additional classroom teachers, for additional positions, guidance and things, was appropriate because those are positions that are needed in the district. So no, we don't have a budget because it hasn't been passed anywhere, and that's the case until we do get a budget. But
And I guess
the number was the number we had been discussing.
And I guess, Tom, having done this for many, many years, and probably people will say too many years, but having done this for many years on it, if we needed, quote, your quote, unquoted, these positions in our system, then they should have been put into our system in our budget and not an afterthought of $400,000. That's, if we truly needed these, and I'm not saying we don't or we didn't.
No, they were in my first presentation. When we put the budget together, one of your goals is to meet the needs, because I think it's really important, and I'm glad Belinda's here. We build a budget on zero. We don't say, well, the council might accept 3%. That equals this. We want to spend every dollar. We don't go in at all with that. We go in with what is going to be fiscally responsible and address the needs that we identify. Mm-hmm. So every department comes and we discuss every item and we determine what we think are the highest priorities. This year, the highest priority has been class size reduction, right? Mm-hmm. Moving those grant positions in, getting the bus fleet up to par, because we're getting 4 buses pretty much paid by the state.
Right.
Okay. So on that first night, I had a slide there to show you what positions were discussed that didn't go into the budget, because if we put them into the budget, knowing the response from the community and the council, we knew we had to be in probably at 3% or lower. So we always hit Adam and I, you put everything in, we take everyone's feedback, and we push the button, and we say, where is our budget? Is this fiscally responsible, knowing we need support from you all, we need support from the council, and we need support from the community? That's what goes into this. If every department presented to you, there would have been 20 positions listed. The community cannot afford that. When you've had presentations, like on interventionist, you had a Title I presentation that said we needed 10 to 15 interventionists. We can't afford that. So 2 years ago, or it was last year, we put an interventionist at Sherwood. We could fiscally say, you know what, let's start. We'll put one in, right? So the high school, they could use a teacher for every department. They know that fiscally that is not going to get supported. So I asked them to prioritize which department, if you're going to get one position, would you need? The middle school. They would love a literacy specialist, a math specialist, a behavior specialist, a dean of students. I said, well, if you had one position, what would you do? We would like to have our team from 3 to go to 4. Okay? It's based on what we determine is the highest need that's fiscally responsible. That is your goal, that is our goal. We came in with a conservative and very respectable budget. And I get disappointed when we do that, and still we're held to a 0, and the city is held to the CPIU. That doesn't seem equitable in us working collaboratively to the best interests of our educational system and the best interests of our city. So I feel I need to be clear that I go into every budget season, my administrations, the teaching staff, understanding that this is built on needs, Vision 2020, do we have a strong return on investment, and your school committee goals. We take it very seriously. You all take it very seriously, and you ask the good questions, and we go through the budget. Now, in fairness, we had an insurance adjustment. You all said you had pointed out needs. This might be an opportunity to do those needs. That's where we are tonight. So I feel I need to say that because I think it's very important for the community and the council to know that. We took this very seriously.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good clarification. All right, so I am open to other comments concerning Monday or direction that you're feeling at this point in time, or understandings or clarifications. Yes, Elfrida.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that the council is pretty clear on what the expectations are. I know that the 0% was a pretty strong number, but what we're looking at is what can you do further beyond what you already have here. I spoke about, well, before we do that, I wanted to reiterate the memo that Mayor Levesque wrote to councilors. And this memo has to do with what our goals are. One is to increase increasing support positions based on a one-time decrease in health insurance premiums has the potential to create a structural gap in future budgets. And I know I spoke with you about that, because if you're depending on this insurance windfall, next year may be the total opposite. So if you have to go back after increasing positions based on, you know, the savings from the insurance, then you don't realize savings next year. That coupled with what we're looking at in terms of the fund balance, that's a large amount of money, $639,496. If we can't, you know, recoup that, again next year, then we've got two potentials here that we are in the danger zone. So that's of concern. Another area is, Jill Eastman had mentioned that bonding agencies think that Auburn, in general, Auburn schools, Auburn City, has a high amount of debt. So the new ELHS is going to increase the burden on the taxpayers as we pay our local share, and possibly if we want to add features that we would like to see, that will be an increase in the local shares, and you know that. But there's also interest being accrued on this, will be accrued on the state bond. That's going to be at local expense too. So what we're looking at is from the perspective of taxpayer. And this is what I got from my notes from the last meeting that we had last week. The financial burden.
So Alfreda, can I just jump in?
Sure.
Do you remember in the capital improvement plan, we put $200,000 towards the new high school?
Yes.
In anticipation.
Right.
So, and Adam,
But
is it
that's-
true that we pay the interest rate on the bond? Within the bond, can you explain that?
We would only be paying interest on a local-only portion of the bond. Any
Local
interest on
only.
the state-funded portion is state-paid.
Right.
And just a clarification, and I believe I have reviewed this, not currently, but I know when we were reviewing this 3 or 4 years ago, the city is positioning itself extremely well with bond debt at this point. They're retiring bonds in anticipation of the new EL, so that any local bond that we do to add to the value of a new EL and facilities and things probably will not result in any tax increase whatsoever because of the retirement of bonds. And if you look at the bond schedule, as we did back then, and I don't remember the exact years as bonds were falling off, or basically falling off, that we were going to have more than adequate room to deal with the local portion of any part of EL. So I don't believe that the comment that the mayor made, and that you have just reiterated, that there's going to be an impact on the local taxes is actually accurate if we go back and look at the way the bonds are going to fall off. The bond rating, in my understanding, and this may have changed as of recently, but I know the bond rating of Auburn has been excellent, and the carrying a fund balance, of which we are reducing ours, but having a fund balance is a good thing in bond rating. So to take that entirely away is not regarded as a good thing. So I think the city's is, they're looking for 8%, and we're allowed to carry 3%. It's something like that. There's a considerable amount of money that is desirable in bond rating. And the city is in an excellent position for both of those points. So I would, again, I have not reviewed those particular points recently, but I know in the past, perhaps at least 3 years ago, in talking to the city and Jill, we were extremely well positioned financially to take on the new high school, and I don't believe that has changed.
Yes.
What might have changed was that there's been talk about having a new police station, a new fire station, a new whatever station on the city side, which would have an impact on it. But just to what you said, Tom, is absolutely correct, and that was when Howard Kroll was here, and he made it a mission to reduce the debt service on the city side.
Yeah, they were working at it very diligently in anticipation of the new high school.
One thing I find lacking is that I would love to be able to see a listing out of the bonds that we have, the grants that we have, when they're going to retire, because when you are hiring new positions based on grant monies, and then the grants are done, if they're not resurrected, if they're not rewritten, and we have more grants coming, then what you're looking at is new positions that have been added that now is the taxpayer's burden, not the grant paid. They're not grant paid anymore because the grants retire. So we really, truly, in order to make conscientious decisions here and informed decisions, there are pieces of information that we need to have so we can take a look at the listing out of that so we can see, okay, let's say, how many instructional coaches do you have? How many interventionists do you have? How many guidance counselors do you have? Because I know you're asking for, may I please continue?
That's all right, I'm
May I please
letting you.
continue? Let me, I didn't interrupt you when you had your turn, so let me just finish, okay? Thank you. So the instructional coaches, the interventionists, and the guidance counselors, those are the new positions you're asking. I have no problem with 5 new teachers. I've said so last week and the week before. I love these numbers. Reducing class sizes is something I've talked about for a long time. A teacher can do so much with a reduced class size. We don't have the numbers for middle school and high school here, so that's incomplete. But as far as the elementary is concerned, these are excellent numbers. A teacher can do so much more with lower class sizes. I much more prefer at this point knowing that teachers are the constant, the additional, the 4 new additional positions that you have, the classroom is not going to fail because if we don't, include those positions. And, I believe that what the message was is that take a look at the budget to see if there's something that you can give up, and I don't think it's possible to go to a zero balance, a zero increase, but how close can you get to like a 0.5 or a 1%? So if it looks like, we're looking at possibilities of reducing that a little bit, we're not asking to, reinvent the wheel. We are all parents, grandparents. We are all in support of education, getting an excellent educational program for our kids. And it takes time to get to that point. So what we're doing is looking at, what are all these additional costs that have been incurred over a period of time? And these are all new positions. I would much rather see classroom teachers, reduce class size. Middle school, high school, they need additional support. I'd much rather see that at this point in time because I think that the impact would be greater. The other point that was made, that I need to share with you because I represent the mayor, is that there is community concern regarding the increase in the budget and a decrease in student instructional time because of the Wednesdays. And now we have middle school and high school involved. So that has been of concern. Parents have voiced it, and I need to bring that forward so that you can understand that even with all of this and the expenditures, we still have these concerns on the part of the parents. And I think if we take a look, for example, some of the discussions in terms of how we can realize some savings, is we did mention collaboration between city and schools for roofing needs, for example, or a portable sprinkler is needed, but you know what? Do we have an extra one in storage? If we only have one out there, have we looked to see if the city might have an extra one in storage? Because that is an expensive piece of equipment. So I think if you take a look around and ask for us, conduct some sort of a survey on how if we have materials that are just sitting there that can be used, those would be also a cost. So I think that if you just take a look at these things and say, okay, we could probably hold off on something this year for the next year's budget. Not throw everything out, but I was not in favor of the 4 when we brought that up for a straw vote. I was not in favor of these 4 new positions simply because I'd much prefer seeing classroom teachers to reduce class sizes. So I'm still without some more information that I need, and I was thinking I was going to be getting the middle school and the high school information, but I didn't, so I don't know.
I said it on Monday night. The middle school is averaging 25.
Right.
The high school, I can't give you a definitive.
Yeah.
There's classes
Right.
as high as 25 and as
Yeah.
low as 2.
And 25 is
So,
high.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the high school is much more difficult because
Yes,
the sign-ups, the courses,
Right.
and so forth. So,
right, I understand that.
But I think
understand.
other people would like to share
Right.
as well.
Okay.
So I had a question
Thank
for
you.
you, Alfreda. I guess I was a little confused. Sorry, Andrew, did I jump in front of you? I was a little confused and shocked that you abstained from voting.
Yes.
Because as a board member, you sit on here, you've sat through the workshops, you've seen that we've been, I know your opinion's different. All of us were elected here because of our opinions, and we all see things differently. We all focus on different things that are important for our students to succeed, important for our teachers to succeed. We didn't just pull things out of a hat, and we've sat here, you've sat through the workshops, you've sat through the presentations, and the fact that you abstained from voting when you just said yourself that a 0% increase is not likely, you know, you represent the students, and how could you not vote that down? I guess if you can speak to any clarification for that, because I took that very hard.
My piece that I'm concerned about was the piece that I spoke to the very first time we took a straw vote here. And I just mentioned that a few minutes ago. Those 4 new positions, I wasn't in favor of that. And that's why I abstained. I wasn't in favor of not passing, and I also wasn't in favor of passing it. If I were in favor of passing it as is, then I would be accepting those 4 new positions, and I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of, I'm okay with the 5 positions, the teaching positions, but the 4 new positions,
But
I
the
think we
approval of
need
the
to
0%
hold.
increase, no increase, 0%, I guess,
Well,
that's
the
very
0%
confusing to me.
was a difficult thing to vote on, because 0% is pretty, you know, it's pretty.
Right, but keep in mind, you do represent the students, and that is not realistic. We have done the best we can. We've heard from teachers, we've heard from administrators, we've heard from everyone. The students are not getting what they deserve. And the fact that they want to hold us to a 0% increase is just ludicrous. And I was completely disgusted. It was the slap in the face for us to walk into here. 1, we weren't given the opportunity to speak. It was not set up as a joint workshop like we were told. 2, no matter what we would have said, it would have been the same outcome. There's an agenda that was being set, and we were all basically ridiculed and questioned and asked if this was a perfect budget.
I
Like,
don't
we have
think you
worked
were-
weeks
I
and
don't
months.
think you're being ridiculed.
You don't think we were being ridiculed?
No, no.
Well, I felt for Katie, and I couldn't wait for it to be over with, because I know no matter what we would have said or done, that I will say, certain people were not going to hear it. I think it's embarrassing. It's sad for our community. It's sad for our citizens. It's sad. I know I'm making decisions that are fiscally responsible. I pay taxes. I have 3 kids in the school, and this is embarrassing for our community that this is going on right now. Because our students deserve more,
Right.
and that's all I'm going to say.
You know, just,
Come around. Okay, Pat?
I think a 0% is draconian. And I think 0%, and I hope that Katie and Adam will address this after, 0% is going to take a heck of a lot more positions out of this school department than those 4 that we voted in. 0% is an insult. And I agree with Faith. I was so upset last week. I think the school department was publicly humiliated. Not necessarily by the vote, but the way we were spoken to. And I agree that there is another agenda going on. And it makes our job 200% more difficult, because I'm here in good faith, and I'm here to give a goodwill effort for the students and the community of Auburn, and we are lambasted like that in public. It is totally counterproductive. It's totally.
The mayor should come join us and listen. The mayor's there.
I'm new to this public forum. I understand that it's all about politics, and it's not necessarily all about the students, and that is very, very sad for me. It really is. This memo that we received from Mayor Levesque really upset me. To say that we have to start decreasing our budgets until that shovel goes in the ground is ridiculous. That school is for the whole community. You want to start cutting budgets now, 4 years away? Be my guest, but do it on the city side also, because that school is for the whole community.
we haven't finished ours.
Just let me finish, please. I'm not speaking directly to you. Please don't.
Yeah.
I'm just upset, okay? If we cut our budget every single year from now until when that school comes online, we will be so far behind, we will never catch up with our needs. That's the first thing. I'm not going to speak to the rest of what he said because I'm too riled up, okay? And my doctor won't approve. But I do want to say something about the loss of instructional time. It's my understanding that the elementary school kids are now getting an extra 1 hour and 1/2 more instructional time every day. And that's wonderful. And I understand that the middle school and the high school students are going to miss 1 hour 9 times. That's it. So I don't really think that anything that says we're losing significant instructional time is at all fair. End of my diatribe right now. Thank you.
Can I respond to,
No.
to the question about?
Just a moment, come around, then I'll let you.
Sure,
Time.
but
Dan, do you have
hope I don't
something to
forget
say?
my
I do.
stream of thought.
Basically, I think we should have been kind of forewarned where we should be, because this wastes a lot of time, valuable time. We spend a month and a half or so preparing. It's the third budget I've done, and it seems like they give you a thing of money, and then they decide what they're taking after. I think should know upfront where we should be, so we can plan, so we know, now we gotta go back over it, try to fix it, and do we come in the same again? Do we, it just kind of seems, that isn't how in real life that we do our budgets, and I don't think they should do it either. That's what I get upset about, is it just takes a lot of time.
Bob, do you have a comment
I
you'd
would
like
like to say, I thought the mayor was very hypocritical, holding us to one standard and holding the council to the other. And what kind of joint workshop has one group sitting in front and the rest in the peanut gallery? I almost had to get arrested to voice my speak. It was not a very congenial workshop. And holding us to one standard and them to another is completely hypocritical. I would be ashamed if I was his 2 kids in the Auburn school system. And I do agree with Alfreda, there are some things that we can afford and some things we can't. So we make some reasonable changes tonight and move a step forward, and hopefully we're treated like equal partners the next time.
Bonnie?
Just every month, Adam and Faith and I and Francois Boussier sit in a finance committee meeting. And in that finance committee, and you all receive that information, are the grants that we have and where we are with our bonds and what we're doing with our bonds, how much we've used on our bonds. So we all receive that information. So look at where the grants are. And I believe, Katie, the Title I grant is going away. Is that correct, or it's being reduced?
Well, the Title I, which includes Title II, we don't know if the federal government is going to support that or not. We're hopeful that the administration, the federal government, has talked about not supporting that. And I don't believe we've heard yes or no. Sue Doris is saying no. So, right. So those federal grants are, the school improvement grant, you all voted to accept the school improvement grant, which would infuse money into Washburn School. And we knew we would be backing out. We don't plan to take all the positions in the school improvement grant and move them to the general fund. We talked about which, as we go through, are going to be imperative to continue the important work the school improvement grant started. It wasn't intended, well, let's put all these positions and then move them to general fund. No. We talked about the highest priority positions, which I assume, Alfreda, you agree, pre-K is important.
Oh, no
So,
question.
that pre-K position, we couldn't fund in the general fund as we made it choices.
Right.
So that supported it. So we all knew when you take a grant like the school improvement grant from the state government, federal government, there is a time that it starts to come down. And as my role is to work with the administration on which positions are highly needed to keep the work they've been doing with school improvement grant forward. So that's why you're seeing that. If the Title I funds, which may increase when the census is completed, I don't know. We don't know yet. But you're right, when you fund positions and grants,
Right.
there's a time when you have to
Right.
consider. You're right, you could say we don't want to support reading recovery and literacy specialists and interventionists. I don't think you would say that. Then you have to fund with the general funds. And I have been purposely having a plan. So the plan was that over the next 5 years, we would start moving those positions in. So it wouldn't be 1 year, all those positions have to come in. We've been very methodical in, well, we'll do one position, two, so we can slowly come out of the reliance on those grant funds.
What we're looking at right now is 5 new teachers and 4 additional positions, which makes 9 positions. That's a lot of positions at one time. And so what I'm saying is ease in, and because the fact is that if all hell breaks loose next year with any number of things, we know the state has less and less money. They're trying through, cooperation, have school systems work together in collaboration so that they can share expertise, they can share resources so that it costs less money for each individual school. And I think that's a great idea, and it's good that if you can do that and do it with the approval of the schools who are working together because they want to work together to create new innovative programs, get the best possible specialists they can, like a behavioral specialist. No question in my mind. I taught behaviorally disordered kids all my life, and I know that's necessary. That's really necessary. So we can get that creatively through, pooling resources between schools, like your interlocal agreement. So, but to talk about instructional time, I know, I've been there. You get kids to stay an extra hour and a half in all. They're staying longer each day. The teachers are tired. The students are tired. Is there a way that we can take a look at that and see, can we have a more creative way of providing training? No question, teachers need training in order to do their job. And the 1 day a week, the 1 day or the 6 days of, middle school, high school, will it grow the following year? The concern of parents is, next year, are we going to have this increase of these kids are out even more? So that is a realistic, that's a realistic
Katie,
concern.
I hadn't finished my comment on it.
And we do, I'm going to watch the clock, because we have about
I'm going
25 minutes, and you have to vote on the budget.
Haven't spoken yet.
No, that's all right,
probably
and
need to
we have scenarios, we have options that we want you to look at.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's
so
all I'm
Adam,
asking
can you
for.
pass out, and Bonnie? while
I
that's
agree
going-
with Dan. We should have known beforehand before we spent it on it. It's a waste of time. But the other part of it is, the council should not be getting into the weeds of the budget. It's the bottom line that they've got to give us, and we have to work with the bottom line.
Right.
It's not,
There needs to be trust in this elected body.
right, absolutely.
Oh, that looks.
Well, can we go over them so
Yes,
everybody can hear them?
please do.
Okay.
Let's spend some time on that.
Yeah. So, Adam, can you go over, yes, Jen?
I'm sorry, but I just want to know if we're not trusted and we can't come up with a budget, why is there a school committee?
State
The
law.
city council has the authority under the city charter to approve or disapprove of your budget, our budget.
Just the bottom line of the budget, that's all you have to do.
Bottom line, right.
You don't get into the weeds of how many interventionists we need or how many
Okay, so Adam's gonna go through, and probably Bonnie
As
wants
part of our
to.
discussion as a school committee.
Right.
So,
Okay, so,
And Alfreda, I recognize that you're caught in the middle. I mean,
It's
I
a
think
difficult-
everybody does
yeah.
to a degree. You are
we're all
caught.
here for the right
Yeah,
reasons.
But you are, it's a hard place to be.
Right, right.
Okay. All right, so Adam, can you go over?
I can.
Yes.
So the backdrop here, before we get into these numbers, as you all know, at Monday's meeting, there was some confusion about what the school increase was, when the city had its numbers up there. So I spoke with Jill Eastman, and we figured out what was going on, and it had to do with the state subsidy that came in last July and how that was applied. And so what we've done is we're using the city's numbers. Our numbers now match, and so what we're going over tonight uses that number. And that is the number that the tax commitment was based on. So at the top of page 1, we've given you option A and option B, and then we have variations of those options as we go, and these are to start discussion on what we might do. So option A would be if all 4 of the new positions were removed. We left our use of fund balance the same as it was in our last proposed budget of $639,000. And all of that reduction went toward reducing the local tax commitment, be an increase of 0.44%. Option B is also if we remove all 4 positions, but we accomplished a goal of cutting our use of fund balance in half, which is something Katie and I had hoped we could do. And if we did that and used 450 of fund balance, it would leave a 1.5% increase on the local. And then we basically use those 2 options and go through all the scenarios. We add 1 position, we add 2, we add 3, we add 4. And all I've done is run the numbers for each of those with keeping the fund balance at the 639 or using 450. And so we have 10 different variations here for consideration. And so it looks like a lot, but that's basically all it is.
Can I say what I want?
You may.
Okay. No, I'm trying to get over my Irish puff that I had a little while ago and be very serious. Of all the positions that we added in, the 1 position, which is a half position, is the guidance counselor at Franklin School. There is no guidance counselor at Franklin School. There are 70 or 80 students down there that do not have guidance assistance at all. Of all of those positions, that would be the one that I would want to keep in the budget. The other positions, we already have people in those places. I find that absolutely really surprising that there isn't. I always assumed that they were serviced by their sending school guidance, and they're not. I don't have, now that I've left the system, I don't have access to the NIASC report, but I can't imagine that that got by them, that.
Well, they 2 things. They have a position that a teacher serves in the role of workforce development. So part of his position is helping those students transition to career or college and also get jobs. So they have a high rate of students that are employed. When at the end of the year, there's needs, they can call on an Edward Little guidance counselor to come down and support, which they have done. But you're right, they definitely could benefit from a 0.5 position to help support them, because that person's wearing a lot of hats and he's not a certified guidance counselor.
Right.
Right. And then, of course, the guidance counselor at EL, it does add to their workload to go down and help out. But they do help out, like with SAT time, if there's any things they need for college applications. So they are willing to help and support. But you're right, there's not a
One down there.
correct.
So my suggestion might be, if you look at option A1, what would it look like just estimated if we lowered the fund balance to 450 and just added a half position?
Adam can run that.
All right, other comments? Bonnie?
Well, in going along with the guidance council, I know some people in our community don't understand the value of guidance counselors and what they do. Because when we went to school 100 years ago or more, the guidance counselors were people that helped you get into colleges or to get a job on it. A guidance counselor today is a lot more than just that. A guidance counselor at an elementary school can either make or break a kid. So if you got a kid that is despondent for whatever reason they are, and they go to Sue Davis at Fairview School, and she's the only one at Fairview School. There's a half.
Yeah.
There's a half. But let's face it, there's 500 kids in that school.
Correct.
And just because it's Fairview School doesn't mean that they don't have problems that other schools have and other kids have. So I guess I would favor adding the Franklin and also to add a half-time at Fairview at this point.
So you're looking at A1. Are you looking at the fund balance staying at 639 or being at 450?
I'm a person of believer of fund balance. So I do believe that we need to add one position. Right, in one position, and keep the fund balance where it is. And I thought it was interesting that we didn't go on to the next page, Adam. On to page the threes.
Because those are adding, those are
Just
adding
additional
positions.
One is just adding one more position.
Yeah, one more
Right,
position each
right,
one.
right. So I guess that I'm trying to get as close to a 2 as I can. I'm not getting close to a 0. That's my feeling.
Coming around, Jenna or Faith?
For the record, I believe, according to the Sun Journal today, the Lewiston School Committee has a 10% increase, and it passed the city council last night, 6-1. That's 10%. They're only a mile away.
Twin City.
Any others with comments at this point? We'll come back and deal with this at our meeting, because we do need to have a vote on this tonight, so that it gets to the city council with our number for approval if we're going to make the June referendum date. So they will deal with that on the, I believe it's the 14th.
12th.
See if you have consensus.
But I think we can
Because we have,
do that in the meeting.
bottom. All right.
We're going to do that at
Pat's
the meeting.
question, if you added half a position, and I looked at using the 450,000 because I'm biased, and that's what my 2 cents as business manager, I'd love to see that. 1.7% on the local.
And if we added the other half, it would,
That's what's already on
Already
here,
there.
Already in there.
1.91.
Okay.
1.9 if you, that gets you close to your 2, Bonnie.
yeah.
I'll say I
Yes.
want to stay close to a 2. Less than halfway in the middle.
Yep.
I would like to stay at the 2. Because again, I think we're very fiscally responsible in preparing this budget and listening to the needs of the teachers and everybody else that's involved in the school department.
Katie, can you just review again what the 4 positions were?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I'm clear
when we
with what we're
say
doing.
one position, one is half-time. Right now, Fairview and East Auburn share a guidance counselor. So it would be increasing Fairview to 2 guidance counselors and give East Auburn a half a guidance counselor. And that would give a half of a position to Franklin. Right? Then there's 2 intervention positions, and those intervention positions help support those students not meeting benchmarks. And so, and as I explained the other evening, based on data, which we will look at, where to best place those interventionists, looking at the latest data, it would be Park Avenue and Sherwood Heights. Then there's an instructional coach position. We have, in the budget, we had reduced from 3 to 2.5 of straight instructional coaches. We do have technology support, instructional coaches of 2. And then, so this would add 1 to focus on the elementary level, because one of the instructional coaches is now at the middle school, and we will have 1.5 at the high school, and then this would be the elementary. I do want to say, because I think people have made a connection that instructional coaches came with mass customized learning and proficiency base, and it reminded me, Susan Trask was here earlier, she's at a different meeting, and Susan Trask was a consulting teacher. Before we even started with customized learning, we had consulting teacher for literacy, a consulting teacher for math, a consulting teacher for science. I also, want to remind that at the high school level, we used to have a full-time director of curriculum, a full-time director of guidance. So we've had, because we've reduced administration to the degree, we used to have an Office of Learning Teaching with an assistant director. We do not. So those positions used to support curriculum work and support teachers in the implementation of that curriculum work. Now, we can call them anything you want. They were consulting teachers before, and we call them instructional coaches now. 10 years from now, they may be called something different. But, and as you pointed out, Frida, you were an instructional coach many years ago.
But I did it, and I was still a full-time teacher.
Right.
I was released
Right,
one day a
exactly.
week.
So these
with
teachers,
so it was
Right.
less costly
right.
this way.
But Susan Trask, I wish she's in the meeting next door. It'd be great to hear all that she did. But we had these positions, and they're not administrative positions, they're teacher contract positions. So these are opportunities for teachers to lead their colleagues in important work. I just want to clarify that, because I think people have said we never had these positions until we have had these positions. I started as the consulting teacher for leadership under Barbara Retzian.
And actually, they're all teachers.
They're all teachers. Yep. Just to clarify that.
Are there any schools that have more than one guidance counselor?
No. Well, the middle school has two, excuse me.
Middle
Middle
school
school has
has
two. I thought elementary.
Yeah.
Middle school it has two.
Right.
Yes. And then Fairview has 1.5.
Yeah, because that's a lot of kids,
Mhm.
right?
You're supposed to have one per 350.
Right.
Any further comment? On this, we'll take this up in the regular meeting. I think we can all think about what options there are and where we might be, and have a further discussion at the time of looking at our budget and discussing that approval there. We've got a few minutes. Do we want to hit the executive session right off? I know, I will.
Yeah.
We've got to go to the regular
Yeah.
meeting. So I'm going to, basically procedurally, we've got an executive session that we need to get into. So I've got to declare a in session. I'm going to bring us into session. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session. And do I have the law? Which one? Is it on that? Is it on there? I have mine here. So let's see. Okay, yeah, there it is. And we'll need approval of that. And then I don't believe we'll be too terribly long on that, probably half an hour. I'm guessing at least a half an hour, but I think that's appropriate. So I'm going to declare us in public session at this point in time. Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Auburn School Committee, but I would entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA 405-6E for the consultation with an attorney. Second? Second. All those in favor? Declare us in executive session. We will adjourn to the back room. Yeah, about a half hour.
Stop.
It's nice to have a crowd here this evening, so we'll introduce ourselves. Bob, I'm going to start with you.
Bob Neely, Ward 1.
Jenna Scrivener, Ward 4.
Faith Fontaine at large.
Bonnie Hayes, Ward 2.
Tom Kendall, Ward 3.
Katie Gronin, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier at large.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Alfreda Fournier, Mayor's Representative.
Adam Hansen, Business Manager.
Kiara Fournier, Student Rep. Olivia Ross, Student Rep.
All right, the approval of tonight's, the consent agenda, which includes tonight's agenda, the approval of our minutes, our April 4th meeting. You also note that we had an addendum, which was certificated contract nominations, and the superintendent's report, which will now include the joint city-school resolution. Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Long. Thank you very much. Public participation. This is an opportunity for the public, and we have some here, which is great, to share with us any concerns they have of items that are not on the agenda this evening. And if you are going to share with us, we appreciate your name and your address in case we need to get back to you. Please come to the center mic, and we'll do it in an orderly fashion. There are quite a few. I don't know if everyone's here to speak or not. If you think there's a considerable number of people going to speak, please, let's not repeat over and over again, and let's not go too long with any one thing so that everyone gets an opportunity to share their thoughts with us.
Tom, the
Yes.
budget's on our agenda, so we will open it up to the public at that point. to
Yes.
discuss the budget.
Yep, budget items will be under the budget. So if you have something that is not on tonight's agenda, which includes our budget, includes our regionalization contract, and the joint school and city resolution, please come and share your thoughts.
I'll be brief on this subject for the other issues. My name is Dan Marino. I live at 3 Bourbon Street, Auburn, Maine. I've lived in Auburn technically since 1983. I've resided at 3 Bourbon Street since 1994. I wanted to recap some of the discussion that I heard earlier today. I applaud you for going after like a pay raise. I think you should have a pay raise. I think you should also be hiring more teachers, more counselors. You need counselors that are dedicated to students who have issues, and let other counselors deal with their educational issues. Don't mix. Don't do half counselors. You're going to do something along the lines of pay someone extra to do more work. Am I right? Don't do that. Hire people. You want businesses to come to Auburn? You have to have a good school. You don't have a good school, they're not going to come. Your school has to be maintained. If you don't maintain it, they're not going to come either. It lowers morale, stigma associated with it. And I don't need to repeat all that because that's what's been going on for the last 20 years. You're about to get a new school, and you're still holding a relationship with the Lewiston Regional Voc Tech. If you're building a new school, convert Edward Little into a regional Voc Tech for Auburn. Don't stay the bedroom of Lewiston. If you're not going to join with Lewiston, then you have to be competitive with Lewiston. It's that simple. I find it extraordinary that Auburn, as big as it is, we don't get a lot of big businesses. Don't you wonder about that? So the YMCA is a great organization. It's looking to move to Lewiston. Or not. Who knows? Okay? I really think you should rethink your strategy on how you address your schools. Teacher, student first. Facility, unfortunately, has to be there too. You have to give them the resources to do their job. So lower class numbers, people will move to Auburn. Nobody likes classes with 25 students. Of course, they love classes with 2 students. I heard that. That's awesome, okay? But to me, 25 is bad, okay? It really is. I don't know how anyone can do that. I was a guest lecturer in Edward Little for Eric Eisman's class, and I taught CAD. It was a struggle. It was a big class, and he had a lot to deal with. So anyway, that's all I have right now. I got other comments that I'll address because this is just about budget. But I think you need to go to bat more on budget, but you need to prove to them why. And the best way to do that is say you want class sizes small. Okay? You want better facilities. You want to stand out. I think you need to do that. Okay? Otherwise, where are you getting, why are you asking for money? For what? So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There we go.
Hi, my name's Joe Hall. I live at 40 Nottingham Road. First of all, I want to thank you all for the work that you do. I generally like to have dinner before this time, so I appreciate the fact that you're not, and all the other nights that I'm not here and the work that you're doing for that. In particular also, I think the work that you do means that my two sons, one of whom's in 8th grade and the other is in 11th, have had some fantastic teachers and overall a very good education. And that takes a lot of work and oversight on your part, but especially it takes some incredibly dedicated teachers who do a tremendous amount with much less than I think they deserve. I want to talk a little bit about proficiency-based learning. I actually like some of the ideas behind it. I like the idea that students don't move on until they've mastered certain subjects. I think the grading system makes no sense. My 8th grade son has been working with proficiency-based learning this year. He's currently doing 9th grade honors math. He's getting a 3 in math, and his habits of work grade is a 3. Which makes absolutely no sense to me if 3 means that he's proficient and 4 means that he has exceeded the proficiency-based standards. Now, I'm not really interested in trying to get you all to change his grades from 3s to 4s. I don't think they really mean much, even if you did. Because what I've learned from our 11th grade son and his visits to college campuses over the last couple of months is that the proficiency-based learning system, however much it provides all sorts of data and detail, does not really say too much to college admissions people. So what you end up having when we've talked to college admissions officers is that they say there are basically 3 things that they need to look at when they're looking at students for a highly selective school. They look at the standardized test scores, they look at the rigor of their educational curriculum, and they look at their grade point average. And at a place like Bates College, where standardized tests are optional, you're looking at 2 basic sources of information. And if you take proficiency-based learning grades, which really don't say much about excellence, even if they say quite a bit about proficiency, you're left with very little information for the admissions officers, who incidentally have a tremendous amount of work to go through to actually process. So while I think proficiency-based learning has the potential, and I'm still not sure I've seen that either, it has the potential to demonstrate or help measure proficiency, which again is a good thing. It does not seem to have any opportunity or space to talk about excellence and achievement. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jesse Bell. I live in Lewiston. My 2 daughters go to Fairview and AMS. They live with their mother at 34 Dillingham in Auburn. I just wanted to speak real quick before my daughter comes up, Peyton, who has some things to say. She can definitely articulate better from a first-hand point of view, not from an outsider's point of view, of the proficiency-based learning system. But from what I've seen, from I guess an outsider's point of view, from talking and interacting with my daughters and their friends on a very regular basis, it's not promoting growth. It's not promoting a challenge. Like, the kids are bored. There's no reason to excel. There's no reward at the end of hard work. Kids, and this isn't me looking at it, this is what I'm being told. The kids, when they meet a task or meet a packet, then they just kind of sit back and chill out and don't really have much to do, because the other kids that don't have to work as hard as they, there's nothing to push them. They're just kind of dragging everybody else back. There's very little competition. And in this world, our task as parents are to set our kids up to succeed. Success in this world that we live in, no matter how you want to paint the picture, is based on competition. You have to compete with applicants for jobs, and once you do get that job, you will have to compete with fellow employees for promotions. That is the facts. There is nothing that you can say to change that. That's our world we live in. And if we're not teaching our kids competition at a young age, they won't know how to handle it and deal with it when it really matters. It's just not fair to them, We didn't grow up with that. I know I'm very competitive, but that's me. There's a lot of people that need to be taught that. I don't have to worry about that with my kids, but I worry about it for their friends and all the kids that are following them. So I'm going to turn this over to Peyton. She can tell you a little bit better about it than I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Peyton Bell. I'm a 7th grade AMS student, and these are my feelings about 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. I'd like to first say that with this grading system, I've never seen anyone fail. But when a kid does get really close to failing, a teacher comes to help them and pretty much tells them the answers. I have seen this happen many times with my own eyes, but it's probably happened other times also. This makes it so any kid can just not do their work, not try, and still get the answers right. With this problem, it makes it really hard for someone to push hard and strive to succeed. With this grading system, there are not a lot of due dates that really matter. I feel this way because if a teacher puts up an assignment that's due 2 weeks later, I could finish my assignment on time, get a 3, but still get the same grade as someone that passed the assignment in 2 days late. I feel that this is because we work at our own pace, so to the person that passed it in late, it doesn't matter because they did it at their own pace, when really they just didn't put the effort and time to do the work. And lastly, one of my main reasons for wanting to change the grading system is because I really, really wanted ABCs and Ds. I always wish to have them because knowing that you have a real shot at succeeding is amazing. To me, succeeding is like winning. If you guys know me, I really like to win. But now that we have 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, I can't get that amazing feeling to win. Thank you.
Thank you, Peyton.
Thank you.
My name is Riley Lacasse, and I go to Auburn Middle School. Pretty much a lot of what...
Move the mic just a little bit closer to you. There you go.
Pull it real close. Real close there.
Pretty much a lot of what Peyton said about the motivation piece. I find as an 8th grader, we sit in class, and I know me and my friends back there, we're very hard workers, and we like our work on time and done well. But it's kind of come to the point at the end of the year where we look at each other like, okay, what's the point? Because we pass it in, and then the teacher says, okay, so-and-so, where's your work? A week later, they pass it in and they have the same grade. And then we also find there's a problem, like, for example, tomorrow morning we have a social studies test. And we're supposed to be studying for it, but tomorrow morning we can go in and completely fail and retake it 20 times until we get it. And it kind of puts a hard spot on us because tonight we could be at home studying, but we are good students, so we already did that. But there are some kids that won't study at all and will be able to pass that test because they'll just retake it. So pretty much I think everybody's, one of their big concerns is the motivation of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
How's that? Okay. I'm Laura Gilpatrick. I'm at 481 Court Street in Auburn, and I'm a parent. I do have a statement to enter into record, but I'm not as good as these lovely young people at remembering, so I'm going to read my statement. I'll try to read it as quickly as possible. It's just a couple pages. So my name's Laura Gilpatrick. I live at 481 Court Street in Auburn. I have 2 children in the Auburn school system. I want to thank you for your consideration of my statement today. For a while now, I've been trying to attend as many school committee meetings, city council meetings, community forums, and the like to try and learn as much as I can on the proficiency-based learning initiatives and the implementation in our school system. As a bit of background, my 2 children are in the school system. My daughter, Catherine, is graduating senior at EL, and my son, Ben, is finishing up 8th grade at AMS. So I have one going off to college in the fall and one entering the high school. A lot of change and excitement for our family, for sure. I'm very lucky to have wonderful kids that have been very good students, good friends, and are respectful members of the community. I'm very proud of the hard work they've put into their academics and activities. As some of you may know, Catherine was just named as one of the top 10 in the senior class, an accomplishment to celebrate. She has always made a strong commitment to be a dedicated student, excelling in her studies and receiving the recognition that she deserves for such hard work. It's been wonderful to see her name in print in the Sun Journal as achieving high honors and all the strong grades in Power School over the years. As a parent, as an active and involved parent, it's my responsibility and privilege to keep an eye on how my children are doing in school. And I really rely upon the communication with their teachers, guidance counselors, administrators, and especially the technical support like the apps like Power School that have provided me with over the years. That real-time data and checkpoint is crucial to help keep parents a willing and active partner in their students' success. That brings me to PBL and my concerns. I'm worried that my Ben won't have the same advantages that Catherine had throughout her academic career. There seems to be a real disconnect with Empower and the grading system with actually promoting excelling. I feel that the current 1 through 4 grading system and the Empower website capabilities are placing more of an emphasis on mediocrity than striving for a 2 or a 3, rather than driving our students to excel by achieving a 4. In some classes, there is no 4 to achieve, and there may not be any hope to try and achieve this until they move further along in their high school years. It was very disheartening at our parent-teacher conference for Ben last week, and let me clarify, not because of the relationship or education I feel the teachers are trying to facilitate for Ben, but because of the restrictions they seem to be under to conform to this PBL philosophy. Let's be clear, the Maine learning results and setting clear expectations on learning targets and working towards certain levels of competencies and areas of learning is not a new concept. We've been working with this for years. The idea that we need to now completely uproot our technology platforms for managing grades and relaying achievements, or have things so individualized in core areas of content that everyone is working on their own paths, seems ridiculous to me. Haven't we learned in all these years that kids need structure? That they need a framework that is easy to follow, understand, and execute against? When I looked at the printout of my child's progress report for discussion during the conference, and there were more than 2 pages of explanation on how to read the progress report, and then each content area had oodles and oodles of description and metrics and standards to work through just to figure out if he was being successful or not, I was very disheartened. I was frustrated. I was shocked at the level of intricacy put into something that was supposed to be measuring student achievement. In my place of business, as I'm sure is with yours, we talk about things like measurable, simple, actionable, appropriate for the audience, easily digestible, and the like. Whenever we try to set objectives for learning or training or development, we always try to ensure that we're working through a lens of knowing our audience and making that resource or material valuable and usable. For me, looking at pages of information on a progress report from my middle school student, it was overwhelming. I consider myself to be fairly intelligent, a lifelong learner that's open to change and adaptable to different methods of communication and resources, but this was pretty convoluted. I can't imagine that a parent that maybe isn't as active and involved, or who maybe doesn't have the time to digest all of the information and try and piece together what they actually need to be alerted to with their students' academic performance. Will they really get it? Does the student really get it? Do the teachers really get it? As knowledgeable as the teachers are within their content areas and my child's understanding of that content, they don't seem to all be as knowledgeable about how to merge that into this system of PBL and the 1 through 4 grading. Again, I ask, what's the purpose of doing this? Is it really needed? Are we just overcomplicating things and restricting our educators when their emphasis should be on interacting and developing our students? I know a lot of work's been put into these initiatives, and I hope you understand from my commentary today that I truly do appreciate all the effort and time that has been done. I think teachers and administrators, as well as members of our community, have all put a lot of discussion, research, and work into trying to move forward with education. But I do, however, feel that we may have really put more into these practices than was really needed or has been valuable to our students. Progress for the sake of progress is not valuable. Change for the sake of change is not meaningful. I think we need to be appreciative of where our state is going in line with the nation on a more competency-based system for driving curriculum. As I've said, learning targets are not a new concept, however you dress them up. But we need to be cognizant of the confusion, frustration, and demotivating behaviors that come from this 1 through 4 grading system, as well as the role tools like Empower play in the communication and tracking of this. We need to rely on our experts, our teachers, to teach. We need to stop tying their hands with these types of restrictions so they can ensure that our kids are prepared to meet the state's requirements by the end of their high school career. The law is that we ensure our students are achieving competency in these core areas. That does not require that we uproot best practices and well-established models of grading and communication to adhere to this law. I implore you to consider, as I know you've been asked to do over and over again by my fellow concerned parents and community members, please go back to the 1 through 100 grading system. Please go back to a more direct, simple, and user-friendly app for measurement like PowerSchool, and get rid of Empower. Please listen to your students, your teachers, your parents, and your community. This is not working. I want my son to be able to see the same recognition for his efforts, the same accolades in the paper, the same list of A's on a report card, and that's what he wants to. Let's use this as a lessons learned of what is working with PBL and what is clearly not working, and make the necessary changes now before any more damage is done. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Hawanick, 134 Nottingham Road. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate all the work that you guys do. I want to point out that how many students we have here tonight. We have 4 ninth graders here tonight. I know each of them quite well. I know that they're struggling with Empower and struggling with the 1 through 4 grading system. Honestly, I was kind of surprised and shocked to see the first semester honor roll report in the Sun Journal last week. 133 freshmen made the honor roll. It was my understanding that this grading system and proficiency-based learning is supposed to make things more robust. I have a hard time believing that things are more robust when there are 50 sophomores on the honor roll and 133 freshmen on the honor roll. There is a breakdown somewhere. And I love seeing my kid's name in the paper. It's great. Send it to his grandmother, great. But not if it isn't earned, not if it isn't appropriate. I think it's too hard to calculate the GPA with this made-up formula that has been developed. The colleges aren't going to understand it, as Joe said earlier, and some of my own research has shown me that the colleges don't care. They want to see a GPA. They want to see class rank. They want to see SAT scores. I hope we are not going to continue to embrace this system because we have spent so much time and money with it. It's clearly not working for most of the students. I implore you, please return us to a 0 to 100 grading system, and please find something other than Empower that can be read and interpreted at a glance instead of having to spend 30 minutes trying to interpret it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Natalie Garcia. I live at 20 Skillings Corner Road, and I am at AMS in 8th grade, currently finishing up my year. And I really want to talk about the motivation and how it's gone down unbelievably. for students that were good students last year and bad students. For instance, I know, as Riley said, friends back there, we're all really hard workers, but at a certain point, there's no point. Because at the end of the day, we're all gonna have the same little green boxes in Empower, and whether we turned it in 2 days early or 3 weeks late, it's the exact same thing. And I guess that bothers me because I feel like I should be able to succeed whether others are willing to succeed or not. And I also feel that people, if they find they're not succeeding, nothing motivates them to succeed more than not doing good. Because not doing good pushes them to go harder, for most people. And I mean, motivation is a major part of our academics, because if there's no motivation, there's no competition. And if there's no competition, then we're never gonna learn how to function in the real world. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. I'm Noah Peck, and I live at 230 Beach Hill Road, Auburn, Maine. I'm a freshman at Edward Little, and the people I'm surrounded by are incredible students. They're hard workers, they're great athletes, they're just great kids and role models to be surrounded by, and I appreciate that. But it's so odd seeing so many successful kids around me who used to be some of the best role models for me, who are straight A students at the middle school.
I know, it's...
Well, that's quite odd.
Right, we'll go.
Should I continue?
Yeah, just keep it.
There we go.
Who used to be straight A students at the middle school, checking their Empower and seeing 1.5s, 2s, and just looking at me and saying, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. I don't feel worried. Like, there's not the push to bring your grade up when you see a 2 in Empower. When with Power School, you would see like a 64 or something like that. Like that was scary for me. Like if I saw 64 in Power School, I would have went home and been like, Mom, please don't kill me. I mean, so I don't get me wrong. I like change. I like change in the right direction, though. And I feel like you don't need to change something that wasn't really failing us in the beginning. Like, take a look at iPhone. Each model, they fix the things that weren't so great, but they don't completely get rid of, like, they don't completely just get rid of the iPhone in general. We could have updated and advanced certain parts of the, I guess the grading system that weren't going too well, but instead just completely just like changing it, switching up on us and giving us Empower. I feel like that just, it's like throwing a bunch of kids into a city that have never been like in the city before, who don't have parents to tell them where to go. Like we're lost. Like a lot of us are lost, and kids are intelligent, intellectual individuals. Like usually know what they're doing, don't know what they're doing, and they don't know where to go from here. And they have role models that like are trying to help them as much as they can, but it's hard to help your kid when there's not much you can do. I want change, but I want it in the right direction, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure you can dance.
I misunderstood the whole process, so I apologize. Okay, Dan Marino, 3 Bourbon Street. So I'm in a rather unique situation, I think, in this room. My daughter goes to St. Dom's. She's friends with Natalie and a whole bunch of other kids that go to Auburn Middle School, and she had a great time at Park Ave. Great teachers. No offense to the other teachers. She never went to the other school, so I have no idea. We took her out because we don't like PBL. My daughter needs to be pushed, okay? She needed it. We knew that. I think the teachers at Park Ave knew that too, and they pushed her. PBL doesn't work. You gotta have divisions. You gotta be able to say who's excelling, who isn't. Imagine Harvard, if Harvard did PBL. Everybody gets an A. Everyone is valedictorian. Doesn't work. Okay? I am upset that my daughter's not at the school system because I wanted her to have the same education, kind of like what I had. I like memorization. Math works that way, okay? It worked for me. I'm a professor at Central Maine Community College. I've been teaching there for 17 years. I can tell students that don't know how to multiply. They can't remember the multiplication because they weren't taught that. When they're slower than a computer to begin with, and now you made them even slower, that's pretty bad. PBL does not work. The data doesn't support it. I would much rather that you had every other place in the country do it, figure it all out, and then we jump on board and know what we're doing than to be at the beginning of the line racing for something that we don't know where the finish line is. Okay? I really think when you're looking at PBL and you're looking at what the school systems are doing, you're taking away student-teacher time. St. Dom's went to 7 classes a day. There's no black and white day or red and white day like Lewiston does. They have classes every day. Student-teacher contact hours. That's how relationships get bonded. That's how things work, okay? I really think it does not work. I don't want to repeat what everyone else said because I'm in agreement with it. I think universities and colleges that accept students, all they're really doing is throwing them into remedial classes to bring them up to speed, okay? And while I'm at it, I don't think Franklin's a good school. They should be in the main school. You have problem kids. Deal with it. The village helps each person individually. Don't separate them. I think when you look at PBL and you hear the kids behind me telling you, I don't have to do anything, I don't want to. They'll just let it go, or they'll accommodate me, they'll move the line. Where does the competitiveness go from there? That's the destruction of an economy. When you start to really dumb down your education, when you set the bar so low that people don't even have to crawl over it, they can literally walk over it. There's no big deal to it now. You have to have that competitiveness. I'd like my daughter, to be honest, to return to the public school system. I really would. I'm hoping you will listen and act and take the initiative to say, this is clearly not working. You should go back to the other system, okay? Because what's gonna happen is, my daughter's fortunate. She's able to go to St. Dom's. She goes to another school, okay? She gets to hang out with her friends on weekends. She hears her friends say they don't have homework. They can take a retest as much as they want. They can't do that at St. Dom's. It does not work. How many of you would put your child into that environment where you can push the line? How many of you said to your child, yeah, you can do that again. I won't punish you. Go ahead, do it again. Discipline, gotta have it. I know I'm saying things that you all do, so please don't be offended by that, okay? All I'm saying is, really, it is one system I really don't want you to do. I'd like you to do something different. Get rid of the empower thing as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Finn Thistle. I live on 75 Beverly Street. I said education is a way to ensure the better side of our future, and I don't think we can move backwards in education. Many of my peers in the high school prefer the old system of grading. It was a straightforward way to see work and a foundation that every teacher could understand and grade equally. One of the many problems with PBL is that teachers would give different grades depending on a target. When a student takes a test with 10 questions and gets one wrong, it could be the difference between a 3 and a 2 depending on the teacher. A teacher could think of a 3 as a 100%, So when a student gets a 90%, the teacher could give him a 2 instead of a 3. It's a very vague system, so the response has been to hire teachers to teach teachers. Teachers don't need to be taught, and when they are being taught, it takes away from what the students are supposed to learn. Most students don't understand PBL, and the students who do understand proficiency-based learning have other problems with this, I think, unrecognizable education. Active students cannot efficiently navigate through the online grading systems. Since this education system is so new, so are these programs, and a lot of them are not as technologically solid as the old systems for 0 to 100. Parents used to know how their child was doing in school, and now more parents are closed out of their child's education. Many times students don't know what the online system is telling them, and there are many glitches with these flimsy grading websites. The parents cannot relate because they grew up on a solid grading system that did not change halfway through their education, and most colleges do not know how to see this on a college application, so it puts these students in the system at a disadvantage. Colleges will accept a kid with a normal grading system rather than proficiency-based system that most colleges don't understand. It is said that there are many colleges that accept this system, but most of those colleges are community colleges in which anyone can be accepted into. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Suzette Sear. I live at 121 6th Street here in Auburn. And I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but listening to everybody talk, I don't want to repeat what's been said. Just to give a little background, I do have 2 daughters in the Auburn school system, one in 8th grade and one that's a senior this year. What I have seen over the journey of my older child coming up through the grade systems, several years ago when Auburn did a presentation on the mass customized learning, we went to that discussion, saw a video about that, and learned about some of the changes that the school department wanted to try and create here using more technology with academics. It's all kind of changed from there. It's really confusing to parents as to what's really happening with all the different things you're somewhat integrating or not integrating. So we've not been clear about that, but the part that I hear that it's not really being spoken, but it's somewhat being spoken through everybody here today, is that education is not just academic based for our children, and that as educators and as parents, we can't forget that there are psychosocial emotional needs, and there's development, and it's all relationship built. And so academics cannot become so automated where there are boxes and computer programs that are just checking off efficiency and proficiency and competencies, and we can't lose sight of how humans develop and grow. It's not all academic. So we do need counselors in school, and we do need teachers, and we can't remove kids from learning that they become so independent that they're doing all their learning on their own, because we're not creating whole human beings that way. And when I learned about mass customized learning, that was my big concern, because they talked about the kids learning things at their own pace, and the teachers would present material, and then it was up to them to do the learning on their own. And I think there's something fundamentally wrong with that, because as humans, we are all wired to connect, and that's what we want to be teaching our kids, and they need it right at the beginning. And we have to be careful when we come up with new ideas, how to do education and new models, that we don't lose that piece because it's vitally important for human development, for psychosocial and mental health development. And right now, we should all be very concerned about the mental health issues of our kids with what's going on. And automation and technology has a lot to do with the imbalance. And I have not received support really from the Auburn School Department, you know, when they started handing out laptop computers to 5th, 6th graders with helping us with this new digital parenting and all the things that come around with that. It's been so focused on academics, and this is what we're doing. We're forgetting the psychosocial, emotional, and mental health aspects. And if we want to raise healthy kids that are well-balanced and able to deal with the stressors of the world and deal with all the new automation and technology, we have to keep it balanced. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
I have one more.
One behind you that hasn't been up.
How did you do in your game? We see a lot of games.
Sorry. We lost 12 to 14, but 6 runs were on errors, so I mean,
that's
little.
Yeah, very well.
Okay, so my name is Emma Dion, and I would ask you to mind my appearance. And I am from 193 Beaver Road, and I'm here to talk about the PBL learning system. And one thing that I really want you to do from the eyes of a student is I want to share one of my experiences with you. And this experience comes from my science class. In our science class, Riley and I were both asked to do an assignment on the circulatory system. Now, the circulatory system, also known as the cardiovascular system, we just needed a basic understanding of, to which would get us a 2. But Riley and I, being the intellectuals that both want to go on to med school, we took it upon ourselves to go further and dig deeper, causing us to do a 40-slide presentation with 6 pictures and an 11-size font. This was a lot of information that took us forever to gather, and it was because we truly loved this system and learning about it. But when we handed it in, we gave it to the project, everybody was kind of just minding their own business, weren't really paying attention. We handed it in, and we got a 2. You can imagine my surprise when 2, standing you basically understanding it, and which we went much further into getting more knowledge than the average middle schooler would get. We only got a 2, which really put a downer on us because we had put so much work and so much time into this one thing that we all were passionate about, and by all I mean me and Riley, and we got a 2. Now, there are other kids in our class who had put a 6-page slide, the respiratory system, it gives you oxygen, and that was basically their entire presentation. And they still got the same grade that Riley and I did, which disheartens me so much because we put so much time and effort into these things that we want to learn about, yet we're still being given the same grades as every single other person who have not put in the time, nor have they actually put in the effort to try to become a good student and learn more about these things that we're trying to be taught. Now, the PBL system also, I want to talk about motivation as well. It lessens the motivation of every single person. And me, last year, I was a straight A student. I worked my butt off to get on the high honor lists every single trimester, and I did it. It motivated me to give me the passion to learn, not to just sit back in the back of a classroom, not to just take notes, but to learn. And when we were in school, that is what we need to focus on, learning. Not memorizing notes, not just forgetting things after we take a test. We need to learn. That's what we're there to go to school for. And when we're giving this PBL, proficiency-based learning system, and we're told that you get a 2 because you simply just understand a concept, you understand the main purpose of it, and you get a 2, same grade as everybody else, truly disheartens me. Because when you get some students that try to go above and beyond to learn what they want to advance them in their lives, and then you get other students who maybe just put like an hour into it and boop, you're done. It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like if we go back to the 0 through 100 grading system, we will be more pushed to work ourselves, to go into life with this motivation and this courage that states that we know what we want and we are going to push ourselves every single step of the way, no matter how hard it gets, to get to the place where we want to go. And when this with the proficiency-based learning, it lessens our motivation, so we don't really need to try to just pass. Every single person passes. I can be doing so much work, like 4 hours of homework a night, and the kid next to me could do 0, just show up to school, get attendance, understand what they're learning, and they pass too, which truly disheartens me. And with all the other people behind me who have come up and spoken and delivered their problems to you, I think you should truly listen to this, because this country was founded on we the people. We do not want to be ruled by a king. We want everybody to be able to put their opinions forward. And I think with all of the opinions being put forward, all the concerns that we have, we should really be put into perspective that something needs to change. There are so many problems with this, and I understand. I know change is sometimes a good thing, but when it's receiving this much backlash, I think you really need to take a look at it and say, okay, what do we need to change? What things went wrong? And what do the people want? Because the people are us. We're the people who are having to experience this every single day. And I just would like you to consider that next time you talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jack Kowanick. I live on 134 Nottingham Road, and I have like one big fear with PBL, and that's colleges and being accepted into college. Because for, like, on paper, I may be, or no, off paper, I may be a hardworking student, and there may be another kid that just does what is required. But when you submit that on paper and you see 3s next to 3s, it seems like the same thing, when really someone is hardworking and someone is like just slacks off, does the minimum, and they seem the same. And colleges will just see it on paper, so it's like kind of like equal chances to get into a nice college. And I don't think that's fair, because the hard workers should be able to have that better chance to get into college and to get into a nice school. So, and I have one other concern, or major concern, and that's like how teachers interpret the grading system. I go from like one class where one teacher interprets it one way to another class where they kind of like change it up and they don't interpret it in the same way. And I have to adjust how I learn to fit their standard of what they think PBL is. All right, that's all I have.
Jeff, excuse me, are you at the middle school?
No, I'm at the high school. I'm a freshman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's a gentleman. He pushed the chair in. Tracy Levesque, 205 Youngster Corner Road. I'm pretty sure that we're being taken to church here by our students. Very impressed with them. They're extremely articulate, and they seem to know more than most of us about this PBL. But I just wanted to talk about something that I gotta say, I drank the Kool-Aid when I was on the school board. And I say that because still being as a volunteer in the classroom and watching the whole customized learning, and even with Ethan and Sarah being in 4th and 6th grade, it's insane. One student over here, one student over here with their learning. We have 4th graders who do not know multiplication right now. They should know that. They're over here. These kids know division. They know fractions. They're into decimals. What is happening to these kids over here? They're still going to go to the next grade. Where are they going to start? That's just one snippet of a classroom. I don't know about any others. I'm not going to claim to know that I know about any others. But I do know that we have a lot of frustrated students. We have a lot of frustrated parents, and I think it's time to listen. Growing up, it was, and even as adults, You have actions, you have consequences. If a child does well on a test, they should be deserving of that grade. If a child turns something in late, that action doesn't warrant getting the same grade as the other student. And from what I'm hearing, that's exactly what's happening with these students. And I would be extremely upset if I was in their shoes. That's pretty much all I have to say. I think it's time to listen to our students.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Just be real quick, but something I think that's quite important that we don't need to lose sight of here. We're all talking about systems and procedures, which is the catalyst of this whole discussion we're having. But there's two very important things that I'm afraid we all have in the back of our head, and we all know, but I don't want us to lose sight of, and that's people and time. These are the people, these kids back here. We're playing with their lives. We're affecting their lives. It's not affecting ours, it's affecting theirs. And the other thing is time. They don't have any. If you don't make this change now, it doesn't affect them. It may affect the class behind them. And I'll be damned if my kids are going to get affected by this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have time to think about it. It's not working. It's being shown and proven. It has to, action has to take place soon. You know, if you just keep waiting and you keep looking at it and you keep, maybe we can make this work. Well, what happens to those who are the guinea pigs? I don't think I like that very much. And if it was your kids, I don't think you would either. Please don't lose sight of that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Going once. Going twice. All right, we thank you. Very well spoken. Appreciate all the comments, and we will take those into consideration. Pleased to see everyone here and sharing your thoughts. Very well done. Bring the public session to close and move along.
I would like to say that we're all very proud of our students here. You are an intelligent group, very mature. Thank you very much.
And do we have student information, student report?
Yeah.
All right.
Pull the mic right up, yeah.
Yep,
Good.
pull it right up.
Yeah.
So we have some information from the CSA, which is the Cultural Student Alliance Group. And they want to invite the community to come and enjoy dancing, music, poetry, and food from various countries on May 11th, which is next Friday, I believe. They're hosting their annual fashion show that night, which is held at the end of the ceremony. Their goal is to bring the community together while showcasing the differences between the people around us. And it is a $4 entrance fee, but you are able to have a buffet of food from a variety of cultures.
Yara, did you say the time? Because I might have missed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I did
sorry.
not. Let me just pull that up real quick. I did not get the time. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, no, send me the time and then I can put it
Okay.
up. Okay.
So, yes, I will send Katie the time, but also the leadership group, on a different note, the leadership group is putting together Teacher Appreciation Week. So next week, for Monday, we're gonna have a buffet, or not, well, technically a buffet of breakfast foods in the library for all the teachers. Tuesday, I believe the admin is going around with a cart with snacks. I'm not sure. I know throughout the week we're giving away certain awards, like the fastest talker.
Oh, I wonder who'll get that.
The most glowing personality stuff, awards of those sorts. There also, Mr. Latuccia put a lot of work into getting different gifts to give away during the entire week, such as a free massage from the beauty bar, free tanning, gift cards to Walmart and Max Grill, places of those sorts. And yeah, so that's all we have for the student information.
Very good, thank you. Any questions of our student reps?
When do finals start?
Oh, way back, in June.
Yeah, we have
Not till June. All right, superintendent's report. Moving on to the item we talked about at our workshop, which is the recommended school budget. We've had some opportunity. We need to continue that discussion and come up with an option and a budget figure at this point. Does someone want to open the conversation after some time deliberate? Is
Do you want me to summarize, do you want me to summarize where I thought we were? Okay, so let me.
I think we have different interpretations here, so I think we
Yeah.
kind of have to review these.
This is what I heard, so correct me if I'm wrong. So to summarize, there was discussion on the fund balance being either at 639,000, so the use of fund balance of 639,000 or 450,000. And then there was discussion on the halftime guidance position at Franklin, or the one position which would include the halftime at Franklin and the halftime at Fairview for the one position. So I think we were looking at the option A11 or option B11. There was discussion on being at 2%, so we would have to look at which options are at 2%, which you can see in that yellow section. So that's what I believe we left it off.
I'm going to just open it up to public. If they have any comment, if there's any public left here that would like to share something on the budget. We've been dealing with this for 3 months now, but it is your opportunity to share with us your ideas or comments. Larry, good to have you here.
Thank you. Larry Pelletier, 129 2nd Street. If what you're proposing is to do away with the fears that Alfreda had about using that 400,000 for teachers, now you want to dip into the fund. And my understanding of that fund is to handle any unseen or unforeseen emergency that comes up. So what happens if that emergency comes up after you've used these funds?
So fund balance cannot be used unless there's an expenditure. We would have to get permission to use those if there was an emergency. So it's not like it's a reserved fund. It's at the end of the year, what we haven't expended goes into fund balance. And we're allowed to hold 3%. We're not going to be there. We're going to be at, if we went with the one where we reduced the 4 positions that were put in after the health insurance adjustment, and we were at 639,000, we would only have 1% in our fund balance. So you're right, it's good to have fund balance, because if there is a situation where you might need to go ask permission, because you have to get permission from City Council to use those dollars, you're right, you're putting yourself. The other thing that we've talked a lot about is you have to maintain a fund balance. So the more you rely on it, the more you have to ensure you have it. So that puts you in a dilemma. That's why we're trying to reduce our reliance on it. So you're right, Larry, you're trying to reduce it.
Thank you.
But it's a rainy day fund, too.
You have to get permission for it.
Have to get permission to use it, yeah.
But
Yes.
it's a rainy day fund, so if we need a
Yeah.
new roof on EL.
Yeah, I just didn't want people to think we could just go into it whenever we.
Right, but it's for an emergency type situation that we need.
That's correct.
Possible.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's supposed to be.
Anyone else? Share a comment? All right, let's back to the board. Is the board, Alfreda, do you have more to add?
No, I was just ready to make a motion, but I'm not sure, because these are all so different, but I was going to make a motion, if I'm permitted.
Yeah, sure, put something on the table.
Yeah, I would like, let's get started. and
Okay, you can
sort of
talk
for
after.
discussion purposes. Oops. Are you
Go ahead, you can put a
I
motion on
want to
it.
let Jenna know there will be discussion.
there'll be
Will be discussion.
I just had a question about what he said, if I can ask.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I was just questioning, are we asking for these to come out of the fund balance? Is that what we're asking? For the
No.
monies to come out of?
Yes, that we're going to designate, you have to make an expenditure, so we're designating a certain dollar amount for fund balance.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You'd use, yes.
Right.
Elfrida, you want to put something on the table?
Yes, I hope it's understandable. I would like to present for purposes of discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we maintain all 5 teacher positions, a new 5 classroom teacher positions, and
Which option,
That's regular.
Elfrida?
well, I'm not sure which
It's
one
not
because
one
they
of those.
don't say 5 teacher
That's
positions.
already in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, those
all
are already
right.
in there.
All right. That, and, well, what I would like to say then in that case is reserve a half-time guidance position and reduce the fund balance, drawing from the fund balance. So which one would best fit
So
that?
that's the one Adam put together that's
A1.
not on this chart. So do you want to review that one more time, Adam? the
Figured I'd
25? That's okay. No, if he could give us all the numbers
Yeah.
for that, we can, see that little open box we have at the bottom? So okay, so let's
So
put
I
in the
think-
open box bottom.
I'm not sure how much needs to be in your motion, but the total budget amount
Yes, give us
would
that.
be $43,731,355.
So how much is, so can you give us the local increase?
No, it's
So
not.
we're
It's
adding
a
it.
new
I'm
number.
adding in the
Yeah.
box below.
It's going to be a half.
And that
What's
is
the
So
local increase?
You
just
want,
with a half-time guidance,
right,
no additional
just the
positions.
halftime guidance. Are you wanting to use the $450,000 fund balance number?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, give me 1 second. $382,133 would be the local increase.
382,
133.
And what's that percent?
Yep,
Yeah.
give me 1 more second.
133. Administrators, you can go home. Go home.
2.12%.
We appreciate you being here. You're wonderful. I love all of you.
1.2 on the local.
2.12.
What's the percent?
2.12.
0.12, which would put us at the CPIU.
Actually, it would be
Okay.
right at it.
Right at the CPIU.
Yeah.
All right, repeat
So,
this again,
so
please.
she's adding just that half-time, just,
One half.
yeah, one half, a half-time guidance.
You know what? I think I did that backwards.
Yeah,
I
that
added a
doesn't-
half
that doesn't
instead of
make sense.
subtracting a half. Sorry about
Because-
that.
Because that percent's too high.
Yeah, no, that didn't make
Sorry-
sense.
sorry
I'll
about
vote for
that.
that.
Hold on another second. You can talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah,
Make me feel less awkward.
I'm gonna say, that shouldn't have gone up.
Feel the pressure, all eyes are on you.
Go for it.
It should be about 1 point,
He's doing, he's, yeah.
1.4.
The budget number I gave you was right.
Okay.
That's right, but just the percentage.
The four, right.
We should be around 1.4.
He's going to the local now.
Or something, it should be.
$306,989.
306,989. Percent?
That's the local increase.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the-
asking
that-
for
yeah,
the,
yeah,
next I'm asking for
You
percent.
have to be patient.
Sorry, Katie. That's okay. I know, it's getting late.
1.7,
1.7.
which I think is what I said before, isn't it?
Yes, because Pat said it's 1.7.
Good, I double checked.
Good memory there.
So we have on the table afraid that there's a halftime, the addition of a halftime position, but maintaining the use of fund balance or cutting that in half, so we're down to the 450. Does that have a second? We can
Oh,
have
wait,
a
we have a
question
second.
only if we get a second.
I second it.
Second, all right, so now we have discussion. Go ahead, Pat.
Which half guidance are you talking about?
Franklin, with the intention of looking at down the road, what do we do with Franklin? I think we'd like to.
All right, good
Mainstream.
clarification. Further questions or discussions?
And the percentage increase again, sorry, I'm not too.
1.7.
1.7.
Considering Lewiston was 10%, I think we've done a pretty good job. Maybe even the mayor will appreciate that.
Wow.
Look.
So,
All right, yes, go ahead, Bonnie.
all right, so we gotta,
We'll vote on this, and if it goes down, then we look at another option. So there's a,
This could take a while.
yeah, well, it could,
It
or
could or
it may
could
not. If there's a feeling that you want to go with something else, or if this is acceptable, you want to vote how you're feeling, which way it goes, and we proceed from there. So at this point, we are at 1.7 as a recommendation that only adds a half-time guidance position, and the designation right now is hopeful that it would be at Franklin. So I'm going to ask for a vote. Those that are in favor of this proposal, which limits our budget to, what was it, 43,700,000 thereabouts, 43,700,000. Those in favor? I see 1 and 2. All right, those against, I'm going to have to call it against, yeah. Nay. Nay? Yeah, nay. All right, and so that motion is defeated. So I'm looking for another motion that we can discuss and bring forward. Yes, go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I would like to make a motion that we go with option B1, which is the equivalent of 1 additional teacher, but it's actually 2 half-time guidance positions, 1 at Franklin and 1 at Fairview. And that would keep those figures consistent with what you already
Yes, thank you for choosing an option where I don't have to recalculate.
Yeah, there we go. All right, good. Now we need a sec. Bonnie has seconded that. So discussion. Does anyone need clarification on that, or got further question?
1.91.
1.91. That is option B11.
with some revision that's 2 half-time.
Yes, 2 half-time, but it's additional 1 position,
And
1 total
it's
position.
also the 450.
And that stays with the 450 utilization of fund balance. Yes, Jenna?
I don't know when I was going to say this, but
You-
I am really thinking hardly about the interventionalists because I struggle with the fact that our numbers are so low when we look at where we are as a school. So I don't know if we could do like a half-time interventionalist at one and half-time at another and add 1 more position and split it between the 2 that are the lowest.
If you go with B22, which I think is what you're advocating for, we will do
Discuss it.
what we're hearing is you would like to add interventionists, and we will work with administrators on how to best utilize that interventionist.
Along with the 2 guidance?
With the 2 guys. So that would be B22 if you keep the 450, which puts the increase at 2.3%.
Yeah, 2.33.
Unless you go to the fund balance use, which
Of
would,
680,
which would make it a
638.
1.28% increase.
I'm gonna put up a question. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put up a question. Is there sentiment on the board for going over a 2%? Or do we really want to stay within that 2%, the CPIU? Do people have a sense?
I feel I'd like to keep it under 2%.
Okay, under 2, Dan?
Yeah, about 2.
Me too, me too.
Patty? Yeah, Pat? Bonnie?
So what does so nobody wants the 233 then? That's too much over?
That's what we're saying. So we're talking about that,
No.
Bonnie, what we're saying. So
No.
you don't support that. You'd like the option of going higher.
Right.
Okay, Faith?
I'd like the option of going higher also.
You'd like to stay at 2?
No, I'd like to be around 2.
Yeah, around 2,
I bet
okay?
a little over is fine.
I'm not opposed to staying at 2, but I think that if we're going to stay at 2, then we need to look at maybe splitting the fund balance and getting our 2. So maybe just decreasing by half of that.
I think
Having another
that's what you play with, is that fund balance, the utilization of fund balance in order to stay there. I guess what I'm looking for is can we arrive at a target of what the increase is going to be to the local taxpayer? And therefore, that gives us a target to go for. Then we decide, are we adding 1 position, 2 positions, 1.5, whatever we're adding, and then whatever the requirement is to meet our target of 2%, if that is the target, we would utilize fund balance to achieve that.
So I'm guessing Adam is calculating what it would take to get the option B22 to the 2.33 to 2.1.
And he can work on
Or
that.
2.
While he's calculating,
He's calculating that.
can I add something else
Yes.
too?
Correct.
My question is, negotiation, is there going to be a lot of back and forth with this? Do we go back with something that we want, or do we go back with something higher because we're going to get shot down?
We want to go in with what we consider a responsible budget at this point. We need to approve this budget. This is then going to go to the city council for their either approval or not. They need to make that decision. If it's going to go to referendum in June, they have to make that decision on the 14th. We want to present them with a budget that we feel is responsible and respects what we have heard from them and what we've heard from the community. So that's really what we're trying to determine now, is what is our budget proposal going to be to take forward not only to the city council but to take to the citizenry. So that's where we are. Bob, did you have a comment?
I think I like where we just were, but we keep moving, so I have a hard time keeping up.
Well, this is, if I could summarize it, this might help. Tonight, you have to vote on the bottom dollar. So if you said, if you end up voting for B22, 43,844,071, you could say, we only want it to be at 2% on the local. We will do the numbers to make that happen.
Right.
You're not voting on the local, you're voting on the 438.
budget.
And you just would direct us that you need to use enough fund balance to bring the increase to a 2%.
Yeah, that's why I worked toward that goal. What is
I
the
think
sense of the
that's
goal that
fair.
we want?
Right.
Because we have the fund balance to work with to achieve that goal, if we
Right.
have a consensus on where we want to be. Then you can decide how many positions, if those are what you're going to work with, and where they should be, and then we can arrive at the goal of 2% by using fund balance as needed.
I wanted to clarify a little bit. I
Yes.
said under 2%.
You would like under, so we
But the
are.
1.7 sounded good to me.
Yeah, you had that as a preference. Dan, do you have any more comment?
I would probably like to modify, I had an idea of 1 teacher, bring fund balance of 400, and so it'd be half and half, and put the fund, use 400 of the fund balance
Yep.
instead of the 450.
That's really the B11.
Pretty close, it was a little bit
pretty
of
much-
modification.
Yeah, B11.
No, it would be modified, yeah, the 400 instead of 450.
Yeah.
So Dan, you're saying you want to use less fund balance and raise the local in share?
Yeah, the 400, yeah,
For your-
400.
okay,
Keep
just
that-
making sure.
Keep it about 700 in the fund balance, a little bit over 700, because that's kind of where we were, closer to where we've been, you know, and we've used a lot of that in the past, so.
So you know that with that slight increase, you probably, the local will get to the 2.1.
Yeah, about
That's what you're
2.1.
saying?
He's
Okay.
close, yeah,
Yep.
he's pushing
I see,
that.
I hear what he's saying.
Okay, Pat, did you have?
I would like to keep it at 2 or below. I think that's fair. How you break it up and how you make it work. I guess if you're going to take the 450 and the 639 and work it in between, that's fine too, that's a
So
compromise.
is it 1 position or 2
That's- I was
positions
gonna
you're
say the
looking at?
first
You
vote,
can do
yeah.
it with any of them,
Yeah, no, I
really.
really, but do you have a favorite? Are you looking for 1 or 2 positions?
The more positions for the same amount works for me.
It'll basically be use of fund balance to achieve 2 positions if we feel that's needed. But again, the fund balance lets us bring it to our goal of 2%, if that's the goal.
Okay.
So are you in favor of 2 then? So she would be in favor of 2, Bonnie?
Dan, you want to keep the $639,000 as your fund balance?
No.
No, I want to be about,
No, wait a minute, I want to hear Dan.
no, I want to use only 400.
Of the
So it'll
fund
give us
balance.
like just over 700.
Okay.
because we've been using a lot more than that, so
Right,
I'd like to
100.
keep that. And either we use one position or the half and half. So half and half, 400,000, we use 400,000 of the fund balance.
Okay.
That should be pretty close to 2.
Dan, that gives you a 2.2% local.
I can live with that.
I can live with that.
And that's just one position or the half-half?
Yeah,
Figure it out, Katie.
Figure it out, but whichever.
The half and half.
Half and half, or,
Now you're getting me so confused.
You want the guidance or the interventionist? You have to
Um,
determine.
probably the guidance, I'd say.
Okay, all right. So Faith?
I think the guidance is important. I mean, I think all the positions are important.
Well, we
Don't
know.
get me wrong.
Yeah, we all get that.
But I do think it's important for us to consider the fund balance because we have been using over $900,000
Yes.
for years.
Yes.
And if we use all that to bring down the local, we are going to be in a huge pinch next year.
We won't
So
have
we
it
have
next
to
year.
consider that.
And so what's your?
So I would do the half and half, 2 half-time guidance, 2.2 local increase, and keep 700,000 in our fund balance.
So you agree with Dan?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So it's good with Dan. Jenna? You can go for the interventionist, you know, keep bid, you know, you gotta.
I know. I have heartstrings that I'm pulling, you know? It's so
I
hard.
hear you. We
It's
all
so
do.
hard.
I'll do.
Agree with Dan.
What's that?
Just agree.
Just agree with Dan, did he say? He wants to go home.
He wants to go home. I mean, I'm okay with what Dan has said too. I'm okay with that.
Bob?
I think it's a great idea.
What I'm asking Adam to do is to see so Dan can hear this, what is the impact to get to a 2.1, so we're staying in the CPIU? Okay, so I want him to see, so we can see what's the difference between 400 and 450 to get us at the 2.1. He's working his magic over there.
The pressure is on.
And remember, Lewiston just approved a 10%
10%,
school
I know.
budget, and it passed 6-1 by the Lewiston Council. So we're 8%.
You're right, Bob.
We're 8% less than Lewiston.
I think
Thank
that's
God
pretty good.
Thank God we didn't merge.
I always appreciate you, Bob.
You want to massage it? Yes. No. Bonnie's got a cramp.
And if our two students, if you're ever looking at accounting or business manager, you can see how they're like, no.
No one wants to be Adam.
Like, no.
Job security, Adam.
Math is not your thing, okay.
Like math.
How'd you do in the track meet while we wait?
The last track meet, the girls won. I think the guys won too.
Yeah.
Good.
Now we're all staring at you.
I know you are.
Where's the Jeopardy?
Yeah, we need that. Do, 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 do.
I don't think that's changing our budget number.
No, it's not changing our budget number.
43,768,
Okay.
927.
All right, wait, do you have it, Adam?
No, I'm saying it doesn't change the budget.
Yeah, it
No,
doesn't
it
change
doesn't.
the budget number.
Oh, I thought you'd put your card in that, ding.
No, so the budget number that we're talking
No.
about is the 43,768, 927. Now,
Correct.
we bring the percentage up or down based on the utilization of
Correct.
fund balance to arrive at that either 2.1 or 2 or wherever we are. So that is a secondary consideration if we are looking to approve a budget number,
So he's
which is our
raising the
task
local,
tonight.
right. Yep, you're right.
All
So
right,
we could
so-
keep moving.
So we can keep moving, I guess,
Keep
and Adam
moving.
can come up with that. So are people comfortable with the 43,768, 927, which represents the possibility of one additional or 2 half-time positions, that will be somewhere around that 2% increase to the local, and we'll utilize whatever fund balance is required to bring us to that number? Is that, I mean, that's what I feel is on the table right now. Does that sound right?
That's what I'm hearing.
414,819.
What is it?
Wait, what?
414,819.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the utilization
And that
of
puts
fund
us at
balance.
2.1%?
That puts us at a local increase of 379,742, 2.11%.
Better than 2.2. Good.
Okay.
Using a fund balance of
414,819.
okay.
So that was good, that's good. Yep.
But our number still stays, the total budget still stays at 43,768,927.
So Dan, that still puts your projected balance at about 7, which I think is what you were shooting for.
That's what I think is.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
So any more discussion on that, or we feel we're in pretty good shape with this number? Bob, I'm going to ask you comments.
I think we're in good shape. I hope the Bruins are.
I've already asked.
Does anybody know the score?
I'll check.
We're checking the
Okay, yeah,
score.
checking the score for you, Bob. Jenna, do you have any further comment?
No, I'm good.
Good with that? Faith?
No comment.
No. But you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
I'm
Bonnie,
good.
you're good?
Anything else?
Can we go Pat?
I guess I'm concerned if this doesn't fly, what's the next step?
We meet again.
Okay.
Dan?
Well, the issue's going to be that if city council does not approve this, they will approve a number and we're gonna have to adjust. Because they must approve on their date,
Monday.
not Monday, the 14th.
14th.
Yep. You could ask Belinda if she would like to comment.
Is that another alleged joint meeting?
No, that is a regular
Regular city
city
council.
council meeting.
Dan, you?
Yeah, I'm good
You're
with
good with
that.
that?
Okay.
Elfrida?
I was still good with the first one that I suggested.
Okay.
All right.
You'd be good with that? But I think we have a fairly clear majority that's comfortable with the 43,768,927. Am I correct on that? I need a motion to approve the recommended school budget for 2018-19 in the amount of 43,768,927.
So moved.
So moved.
Dan moved it.
Okay, Dan moved it, Bob seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, one.
So this is a majority and not a plurality.
Correct.
Right.
That's right, it's definitely a majority. One negative. All right, moving on.
Good work, team.
The, next is the regionalization contract.
So we've discussed this. The Bruins are losing by how much?
2, 3, 6 left in the second period.
Okay, second period, only down by 2. We can do it. So you've seen the regionalization contract. Tom Kendall will sorry, it's 9 o'clock. There are 2 contracts because one will have Auburn, Turner, Leeds, and Green, and Poland, Mechanic Falls, and Minot. The other one will include Lewiston. So we recommended to sign both so that if Lewiston comes back and approves it, we are prepared.
Yeah, okay.
So we're looking for your approval tonight, officially.
So what are the chances Lewiston's coming back?
There's a chance. There's a chance.
Their superintendent feels that it's a good possibility.
All right, they're still working it through.
Yep. Any further discussion on the regionalization contract?
What happens if they don't approve or lose?
We have the other communities.
have the other
It's just
contract.
Lewiston would not be participating.
Yep.
The motion you're voting on, I believe, doesn't specify who's in and who's out.
No, just-
So if you pass the motion, we'll still have the flexibility, and we'll have either version that we can submit.
Yeah.
And this is for 98,000?
If the center is formed, and Auburn is part of it, we'll receive an additional $98,000 in state subsidy next year to Auburn School Department. And the center itself will receive about $97,000 for the purposes of the center.
And remember, your budget does not include those funds, so they will roll into fund balance because we have not expended them.
Right.
Now, remember, the final step is on referendum day, the community has to support this.
Has to approve it.
Okay? If they don't support it, we will not get the $98,000. That's why we didn't want to count on it, because There are still a lot of what-ifs.
And it has to be done on referendum day?
Yes, and the ballots have already been printed, or are being printed.
So we've got no choice. We got to approve it.
Well, you don't put the ballot,
Well, we wouldn't put the ballot out. It's a separate ballot.
Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the regionalization contract, the approval to enter into a contract for the regionalization program? All those in favor? Bonnie's out? Everyone else is in.
So that's
All right.
7-1.
I'd just like to say why I'm out.
Go ahead.
That's fine.
It's a referendum day, and we've got a budget here that can be very contentious, whether it's here, city council, or in the community. And to dirty the waters and add another ballot, quote unquote, that the school departments want $98,000 more, and this is how they're gonna get it. I think it's unfortunate. I'm for it, but I think it's unfortunate that it has to come on this day. I think the public is going to be very confused on what's going on.
We are going to schedule a public hearing on this, we have to, for our May 16th meeting. It will be on agenda item, public hearing. I have also, when I do the budget pamphlet that we do every year, I will be including information on it, and as the Democratic Party had me come speak about it, they said, keep it simple. We need to create a regional service center to get our state funds. Because that's really what this is about. In order to receive your total state funds, you need to regionalize.
And I realize that. I was there in October
Oh,
when,
yeah.
when they said it.
Yeah. So
The commissioner
we're
said
going
it.
to try to keep it as simple as we can in a complicated item. So I understand what you're saying. Okay.
All right, moving on. You were appraised of our negotiating a new contract for the custodial staff with the IAM, and that did come to a satisfactory conclusion. We have agreed on a contract that improves wages, and they participate at a greater level in the health insurance. It's a 3-year contract. Are there any questions? All right, I need a motion to ratify the negotiated contract between the Auburn School Department and the IAM. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much. And that's on the addendum. We've got certificated contract nominations, of which there are 5. Do I have a motion to approve the certificated nominations as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Very good, thank you. And we have the superintendent's report. Actually, maybe I can read this. I think some of us are aware of it. 1, 2, need one more going that way. Which is the joint resolution that was presented by the mayor at the city council meeting 2 meetings ago?
I think it was April 6th. Huh?
April 6th, all right. And I will read this. Whereas the City Council and School Committee recognize the one way to reduce the tax burden on our citizens is through realizing savings within both the municipal and school budgets. Whereas the City Council and School Committee realize that any cost savings must not diminish the quality of education or services delivered. Whereas the City of Auburn's municipal government and school departments have distinct powers and duties under the city charter, the elected and appointed leaders of the city and school department agree that it is important to save taxpayer dollars and/or improve services whenever possible. Whereas the City Council and the School Committee have certain assets, both tangible and intangible, under separate municipal and school department control, it is agreed that it is in the best interest of the community for the city and the school department to collaborate to further economic growth, achieve savings for its citizens and businesses, and increase the quality of life and educational opportunity for all of our residents. Whereas this joint resolution is consistent with state law and the Auburn City Charter, which defines the roles and responsibilities of both the city's elected bodies, resolved that jointly the City Council and School Committee direct the staff of both the city and the school department to consider and, when appropriate, develop a plan to collaborate in order to achieve savings and/or improve services that are consistent with Maine law. Therefore, the city council and school committee direct the city manager and superintendent of schools to prepare and deliver their report to a joint city council and school committee workshop for consideration no later than June 7th, which would be their first report. Any questions on the joint resolution? This was passed by the city council, and for it to be a joint resolution, we would need to pass it. Further discussion? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve.
I move we approve. I
A
move we
second?
approve this resolve.
Second.
All those in favor? Faith, was you down?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, she's down, one down.
7-1.
Very good. And committee reports. You haven't had a finance this month, no?
No.
City council update. Elfrida, is there anything new that we don't already know
No,
about?
I think I covered it at the.
I think we covered it, didn't we?
in our
Yeah.
budget.
Curriculum, Pat, anything?
We have not met.
All right. CLC?
We have not met.
All right. The new EL has not, I don't think since our last.
Well, they met
Oh,
on
yeah.
the 24th.
That's right, I wasn't there. Sorry, I wasn't there either. Do you have any report on that? Because I was,
We're still in site selection.
yeah. Wellness, Faith? Okay, audit, no.
Audit
Yeah.
met.
Yes, oh,
We
you
met,
did.
Yes, prior to the joint meeting.
To the joint meeting, you had one.
Bonnie wasn't there
I came.
for a minute. I'll speak on behalf of the
Yeah,
audit
go
committee.
for it.
No, I'm just kidding. So overall, our audit went very well.
Yes, it did.
And proud to say, I think, is it the 24th year in a row that we got our certificate? Does anybody know?
Yes,
24th
yes.
year, Jill received a certificate of excellence. And they did, I was happy to see that they did address, they audited issues that we had brought up in the committee, and they are making some changes to make everything function how it should be. But overall, everything, the audit went very well. And Casey presented at the city council meeting with, yeah.
Very good.
But it has to be a joint meeting.
Meeting to approve it. And that we are going to,
Oh, thank you for that
I
reminder.
know, we've got to meet with them.
On
the
May
14th.
14th,
We need at least a
they
quorum.
will be doing a joint meeting on the budget. When the budget's being approved, they're going to do a joint meeting
To approve the
to
audit.
approve the audit. So more
We
information
will
to
need a
come.
quorum there.
Yes. Yeah. So May 14th, hopefully it's on your calendar. I'll let you know what time we need to start.
Is it a true joint meeting, or are we sitting in the audience?
We have to have a joint meeting. It will be a true joint meeting,
7, correct?
Yeah.
but only for that
The
portion.
14th,
14th. At 7.
well, yes, because it has to be done in a regular meeting.
Regular session.
That's why
It can't be a
Monday
workshop.
didn't work on that, because we were in a workshop.
Just
Well-
want to make sure I had the right time.
You have the right time. 7.
Perfect, it's in my calendar.
Good.
Deal. There were no transportation appeals that I'm aware of, were there? No. Share Center? No. And negotiations, we're beginning negotiations with the ed techs and support staff. We have had our first meeting, and we will continue those. I forget whether our next meeting is next week or the following. I think it is next week. We just started that, so nothing to report on that, but we are engaged in that, and we will have negotiations with the teachers' contract starting in the fall at some point. So that's where we are on negotiations. Upcoming meetings, we have our regular school committee meeting on the 16th. We will need a quorum on the 14th at City Council. We honor retirees and system dropout awards on June 6th, and that's going to be at Park Avenue again? Yeah, Park Avenue at 6. Our referendum is on June 12th. That's the vote of the public, and we want support for our budget. And the regular school committee on June 20th, which would be our last one of this fiscal year. Any further questions, considerations? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, declare us adjourned. 9:07.